there's me. Let me turn the volume down on my computer. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Streets of New Capenna then, part 3. Let's do this a little bit earlier tonight because there might be an impromptu movie night that's just sprung up. I'm going to watch a movie later on, so we'll get this out of the way. I imagine will be done in a couple of hours, won't we? Yeah, I think so. I've had some nice strong painkillers today, so I'm just a little bit off my tits. Let's crack on, shall we? Now, I set this up just before I started, like a sensible person, to the right card. Oh, look at that, and it didn't even reset when I opened the Facebook app. Oh, do you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to Google how to kick the spam bots out my chat. Do you know what? It makes me feel like a successful streamer, even though I've only ever had, like, you know, a maximum of 5 people in any stream. I normally get nobody at all turning up. It makes me feel like a successful streamer that the spam bots have found me. So let us crack on. We looked at Riveter's Assembly the other day, didn't we? And decided that I probably wasn't going to play it. Too many hoops. So let us move along to Riveter's Charm. Oh, well, I've got a couple of people in already. Hello, people. Say hello in the chat if you're there. Charm. We've not been doing well with the charms, have we? As I say, I remember liking the first one. What was the first one? If it didn't take so long to bloody scroll back and have a look, I would go and have a look at the first one again to reappraise it. Remind me to do that at the end of the stream. You won't remind me, and I'll forget. So let's have a look at Riveter's Charm. If there are 6 or more black gems, destroy the opposing vanguard support or creature with the greatest mana cost. Well, that's a solid effect. We really like that effect. Anything else is just going to be gravy, really, isn't it? If there are 6 or more red gems, draw 3 cards. Those cards gain Outcast. Those cards gain X mana. X is the number of red gems on the board. Coup. If there are 6 or more green gems, exile all cards from your opponent's graveyard. Well, I mean, that's rubbish. And it's weird as well, you know. It's like they keep using this mill mechanic. Who's that saying hello? Hey, Shmara, how you doing? Yes, you are definitely a spam bot, Shmara. That's how I think of you. My little spam bot. That's how I like to think of you. Check this card out that we're just looking at. Oh, you've not just joined. You've been here. You've been listening. Yes. Yeah, it is weird how, you know, they've been using this mill mechanic and they're like, oh, you definitely want to put cards in your opponent's graveyard in order to make your cards better. And now here's a thing that just blows them all up, which is what you actually want to do. You don't want to spend a lot of time and effort blowing up cards in your opponent's graveyard, but you definitely want to blow them up rather than put them into your opponent's graveyard. And, you know, as a little spandrel, as a little side effect on a card that also does actually good things, I don't mind it. This charm seems good. I mean, it really just depends, doesn't it, on how often you're going to get 6 black gems and 6 red gems. Seems okay, doesn't it? You know, it seems... How often are you going to get screwed by not being able to cast this because, well, not you can cast it, but it not blowing up the creature you want it to because there are not 6 black gems on the board. You can, of course, just wait. It seems solid. I might even be tempted to put this type of card into, you know, one of my normal Karn control decks, you know, along with other slightly more dependable removal, you know. Oh, mind you, the thing about control decks is they tend to be full of reactive cards, and Outcast doesn't necessarily work with reactive cards. Do you know what I mean? If I'm going to kill a creature and then I'm going to draw Demolish and another creature kill spell, you know what I mean? I'm not going to get the chance to cast them again on the same turn. Anyway, I quite like the look of it. I probably will be experimenting with this one, actually. It's pretty good. Moving along. Riveter's Decoy. I'm sure I've already reviewed a card by doing that in the past. Riveter's Requisitioner. When this card dies or loses a reinforcement, create a gold token. Oh, they are different. This one's got Berserker. Christ. Look at it, it's so bad. And this is not much better, let's face it. Oh, terrible, terrible cards. Rob the Archives. Draw 2 cards. The last card in your hand gains Outcast. That will be the last card that you draw. The first card in your hand with Outcast gains X mana. Oh, right, okay. So you're drawing 2 cards. Most likely you're drawing 2 cards. One of them's not gaining Outcast. The other one is gaining Outcast, but is getting some mana. If you can't, first card in your hand with Outcast gains X mana. If it can't, right, if it can't gain mana, the last card in your hand gains X mana. X is 2 times the number of cards in your graveyard. Oh, it doesn't seem too hard to put cards into your graveyard. It's even got that little casualty knuckle duster on it, hasn't it? It doesn't look terrible. Doesn't look terrible. Probably worth remembering that this thing exists, to be perfectly honest. Doesn't look too bad. I've not really played with Outcast much in the past. Looks okay, that one. I don't want to, I don't know. It looks better than high shit tier, to be perfectly honest, doesn't it? Although I'm not gonna absolutely rave over it, but it looks okay. Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer. This is a 3/1 with 20x in its stored mana. Wow. Oh, please become a 20/20 creature. When this creature enters the battlefield, pick one of the first 4 different creature cards from your library. Fetch that card gains X mana. X is this card's stored mana. It just seems just a little bit too expensive at 7 mana, doesn't it? Yeah, a little too expensive at 7 mana. If it was like 4 mana, I might give it some serious consideration, you know? You don't really care about getting a 3/1. You know, compare and contrast this with something like Chord of Calling. You know, where you're grabbing a spell and you're giving it a certain number of mana, but you're not throwing 7 mana down the drain in order to do it. Again, not awful. Might even be better. You could call this better than high shit tier. I suppose it's just a bit too expensive. First 4 different creature cards from your library. Fetch that card, gains X. Yeah, just reading it through to see if it did anything else, and it doesn't really. When it enters the battlefield, yeah, you can't cheat this into play because you don't get any stored mana, do you? Yeah, interesting. Not so good. Rogue's Gallery. Return the first creature card of each colour from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, seems pointless. Seems largely pointless and very expensive for 10 mana. If 2 or less cards were returned to your hand, those cards gain half their mana. Yeah, not good enough. I'd rather just have 1 card put straight into play than 2 cards gaining half their mana. I mean, you probably are going to have exactly 2 cards returned to you. You're probably going to build your deck in such a way that you get 2 cards. You don't really want 5 cards returned to your hand. There's probably not room to return 5 cards to your hand. But I think I would much rather just have 1 single card put into play. And we've seen a common in this set, can't remember what it was, that just, you know, destroyed a couple of cards from your library and put a single card straight into play. So this, not as good as that. Disable target creature until the beginning of your next turn. Draw a card. Yeah, mostly not powerful enough. Just some stall like this. It's just not powerful enough, is it? Definitely don't care about sacking a creature to do it. Just not powerful enough. Rumour Gatherer. Alliance, draw a card. Then if you control 3 or more creature cards, that card gains 6 mana. Yeah, again, not powerful enough. You know, it's an uncommon. we shouldn't expect it to be. I never depend on having 3 creatures in play. I know all you lot out there love your Saviour of Holland back, but you all come crying, don't you? You all come crying back to Uncle Stevie saying, oh, just this one time it let me down because Greg was shooting all of my creatures and my Saviour of Holland back didn't work. And I'm like, well, I did try and tell you, but no, you love that guy. Don't care. Run out of town. Return opposing Vanguard support at random to the top of your opponent's library. Okay, we like returning to library even more than we like returning to hand. If you can't return target opposing creature to the top of its owner's library. Now, this seems pretty good. Haven't we got a rare in exactly this set that returns Vanguards and creatures and non-land supports to the top of your opponent's library, you know? So, yes, I mean, okay, there's going to be some players that have some trouble getting hold of the rares they want to. This is pretty good. You know, I'm probably not going to reach for this. I'm probably going to reach for Totally Lost when I want sticking a creature on the top of my opponent's library and getting some extra utility. I think I'd probably take a support if I can't take a creature than I would take a Vanguard if I can't take a creature. Yes, this card just kind of exists in the shadow of another better card that's 3 colours, and of course, you know, Opticon doing their normal thing of just copying the 3 colour card, 3 colour being a downside to a card in Paper Magic and a massive upside to a card in Magic Puzzle Quest. So, you know, it's a fine card, living in the shadow of a better card in exactly the same set. Sanctuary Warden. When this creature enters a battlefield, it gains shield counter 2. I was wondering if we would see a shield counter 2. It's a bit large and a bit small. How can it be large? And it's big small. That's what it is. It's 17 mana for a 5/5. I mean, do we care about keeping a 17 mana for a 5/5 alive? We don't know. It really depends on the text, doesn't it? When this creature attacks, you may reduce the shield counter of a creature you control with shield counter by 1. If you can't, you may have target buffed creature you control get -1. Again, they've done this before. Again, why does it have to be a buffed creature that gets -1/-1? Why not just make it be a creature that gets -1/-1? Give it just generally more utility. Let's see what we do for getting that. Create a Celestia Citizen token, which we still haven't decided from context is a 1/1 or a 3/3 and may or may not have alliance. Who knows? Draw a card, it gains 6 mana. Yeah, not an interesting enough effect. For a 17 mana 5/5 to just give you some cards and put some mana into it and make a small token. It's not an interesting enough effect, I don't think. And it's going to annoy me while I'm mastering cards, you know. I've been talking a lot this time around, this set review, about how I like, you know, mastering cards. And this is, oh, what's happened there? This is not even my favourite type of card to master, because really expensive cards tend to be hard to fucking cast, you know, in decks without any bloody lands in them. So yeah, that's going to be nobody's favourite card, I imagine, the Sanctuary Warden. Oh god, we have to scroll for hours now to get through to where we are. Stop me if you see the that first. Since we have to do this, just going to have a quick look and say, oh yeah, we're going to go back and look at the Broker's Charm and see if I was completely wrong to say that this was good, because I remember it being good. 6 or more green gems, first creature gets +1/+0 till end turn, deal damage to that creature's power. Uninteresting. There are 6 or more white gems, destroy an opposing enchantment card at random. Fairly uninteresting. 6 or more blue gems, 2 cards, gain 6 mana. Yeah, that's obviously the interesting bit. I mean, it's, yeah, it's, I should stop referring to that as a good card that I remember in the past. Because it's, you know, it's borderline playable, but it's not great, is it? The Riveter's Charm is in fact better than that, with its actually blowing up of creatures. And well, I suppose maybe drawing 2 cards is better than drawing 3 cards and I'm having Outlast, whichever, isn't it? So yeah, so I think that last charm is the charm that we found that's the best one. I hope you all can't see my screen dimming and undimming itself, because that's annoying me, that is. Here we are, on to the next thing. I'm just going to draw these here curtains to stop the sun coming in. Sunlight, no. Okay, so we've got some lifelink. At the beginning of your turn, you may drain 3 mana from your hand. If you do, target creature you control gains imminent death. Right. When a creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, pick one of the first 4 cards from your library, destroy that card. Okay. At the end of your turn, if there are 5 or more different cards in your graveyard, you may lose 3 life. If you do, draw a card. I mean, you're just not getting enough benefit, are you, for killing one of your creatures? Just drawing some more cards and not putting any mana into it, and losing more life than you even get for her attacking. She's only gaining 2 and you're losing 3. Yeah, they're just better ways of drawing cards and more efficient life linkers. I doubt that the mix of the 2 is going to make her at all interesting, even as like an objective card. Nah. Scheming Fence. When this support enters the board or an activated gem is matched, disable an opposing card at random. This effect can trigger only once a turn. Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? I was glancing down ahead of myself as I was reading that to see where it said activate 7, gain 6 life. And activate 7 is quite a lot. I mean, it feels like you're going to be gaining a fair amount of life off this thing, to be honest. And if it was disabling an opponent's card every single time you match one of those activate 7s, this would be fairly good, wouldn't it? But only disabling one single card a turn feels like it's very rarely going to hit the correct one. You know? Feels like it's not going to be slowing your opponent down very much. And as a result, I have to say probably not. I like the large amounts of life that it's probably going to gain you. And I might even find myself playing it for the large amounts of life that it's going to gain me. But I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I've just had this experience in playing the Kamagawa run this very weekend, where, you know, there's a level in that where you've got to have 80 or more life as one of the objectives. So naturally I want some life gain in my deck, just in case I get smacked in the face really hard. And normally I'm using Mask of Gristlebrand. I'm using an equipment that gives something lifelink to gain life, and had a bad experience having that creature hit by Sigarda's imprisonment this weekend. I've sorted the problem. When I lose to something, I didn't even lose, actually. It just gave me a little bit of grief. I didn't lose the objective either. But, you know, when I encounter a problem in my decks, I fix it. if you're interested, what I did is I got rid of Invoke Despair in my deck, which I decided is too expensive, and I put in Tegrid Shadow because I like Tegrid Shadow. I know it seems harsh to destroy all of my bloody creatures in order to get rid of the one with Sigarda's Imprisonment, but it is actually a really good spell. So that's what I went with anyway. Anyway, I was looking through cards to see if there was a better way of gaining life than just giving my first creature a lifelink ability with an equipment, and didn't come up with very much. And do you know what? I would have probably looked at this card if I was looking for a way to gain an awful lot of life and this card existed. I would probably look at this. It's rare, so you're allowed to play it in that node in the Kamagawa run. So yeah, I can see myself looking at this every so often. Shame about the disabling, which is probably not going to help you very much, but I like the life gain on it. Activate 7 is a decent enough number to get a lot of life out of it. Scuttling Butler. Nice. At the beginning, oh, sorry, I just say examining the artwork in great detail there. It's just a weird mix of Phyrexian Nightmare and Art Deco, isn't it? It's quite cool. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 2 or more multicolored cards, this creature gains double strike. I mean, I probably don't care. It's not too hard to get 2 multicolored cards in play, but it's too much. There must be a better double strike creature around than that one. Security Rocks. Does it? Okay. When a gold token you control is destroyed, if it's the last card in your hand, this card gains 6 mana. Yeah, but it's only a bloody 5/4, isn't it? Don't make me excited about cheapening the cost of a 12 mana 5/4. It's always only going to be a 12 mana 5/4. Sakua. This is a reprint from, if I'm not mistaken, Cold Snap. I'm very well suited to my, I stopped playing Paper Magic most, to any large degree, somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, depending on what you're looking at. So, but when they do these masterpieces, they tend to throw them right back into Magic history, and I can do ancient Magic history. It's just modern Magic history that I can't do. 16 mana 4/3, small. When a creature card enters your graveyard, reinforce all token creatures you control. Okay, if you can't create an Acolyte of the Inferno, it gains haste. How big do we think Acolyte of the Inferno? I don't really care. It seems like a 3/1 to me. I'm just the kind of guy who thinks that an Acolyte of the Inferno is probably going to be a 3/1, and it has haste. Yeah, it's bad token generator, isn't it? There are better other token generators are available, as the BBC has to say, in order to cover its back, so it's not seen as advertising. Other better token generators are available. Shadow of Mortality. 27 mana, 7/7. This better be good. When you lose life or take damage, if this card is in your hand, aha! If we can circumvent that 27 mana cost, we might be getting somewhere. When you lose life or take damage, if this card is in your hand, reduce this card's cost by X until the end of your next turn. Oh, that's rubbish, isn't it? Again, it's only a 7/7. I don't really have room in my hand for a 7/7 that's not going to do anything except be a 7/7 for it to stay there and wait for me to take 27 points of damage for it to be free. The cost reduction could easily have been permanent. They wouldn't have had to change anything about the card at all. I still wouldn't play it, still wouldn't be very good. But why until the end of your next turn? It's just total lack of playtesting, isn't it? You know what I mean? It just demonstrates when you can make a card better and simpler and still, you know, still around the same power level. It just demonstrates a total lack of playtesting. Shakedown heavy. I'm flooding my brain. As soon as I read Shakedown there, my brain was flooded of images of a cheap Doctor Who knockoff starring the Sontarans that was unofficial and not by the BBC, called Shakedown. That was absolutely terrible. Funny what pops into your brain, isn't it, at odd moments. Shakedown heavy is a 14 mana 6/4 with menace. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if your opponent's planeswalker has less than half their starting life, this creature gains can't attack, then draw a card, it gains 3 mana. Nope, rubbish, don't like, don't care, don't like. Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. I don't even remember where this one's from, if this is an old reprint or not. Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. 10 mana 2/3 Alliance. The first 2 creature cards in your hand gain 6 mana. If you control a creature with power 8 or greater, gain X life. X is the number of creatures and creature reinforcements you control, up to 20. There's kind of a lack of synergy going on there, isn't there? You know, creatures with power 8 or greater don't tend to have tend to be, you know, large and don't tend to have a lot of reinforcements on them, you know, and token generating things don't tend to be creatures at all. What you want for this is, I don't know, a Hangerback Walker. You want something, you want a creature that you can make cheap and is then going to get you have a that you care about, that it's making. It's no good having a cheap creature. You want an expensive creature that you can make cheap, and you end up with a load of reinforcements in play so that you gain a considerable amount of life. It's all just too much, isn't it? It's all just too much. It's just not worth building around. Shattered Seraph. Too expensive again. When this creature enters the battlefield, gains 6 life. We don't care. When you exile this card from your hand, it has 6 or more mana, convert, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, none of these cards have been any good, have they? They've all been pants. Sizzling Soloist. Okay. 3/2 Alliance. Target creature gains can't block. That creature has can't block. Loses Defender, Reach, or Vigilance. Target creature gains can't block. If it already has can't block, it loses Defender, Reach, or Vigilance. Now follow me on this one. If it has can't block, why does it matter if it's losing Defender, Reach, or Vigilance? The only thing that those abilities do is block. So if it can't block, then this card makes it unable to block some more. Somebody explain this to me, because this just seems like a massive design fail. There's clearly something going on with the paper version of this card that they've ported over without thinking. Because it just seems like it does. Well, I mean, I can't say it does nothing, because the initial Alliance effect, which I don't like the fact it's linked to Alliance. It's basically nothing anyway, you know. Giving a creature can't block. Most creatures can't block anyway. Who cares, you know? But yes, okay, it can affect creatures with a defensive ability. Creature loses Defender, Reach, and Vigilance until the end of your next turn. End of your next turn. Right, that's what it is. Okay, I found it. Found it. It gains can't block. But if it already has can't block, then it can't block on the next turn as well. I still don't care. Whatever. I still don't think it's I can see the design there. It's not an absolutely pointless piece of design. Only it is, because who fucking cares? You know what I mean? This is another one of those rubbish lands. Moving on, sleep with the fishes. Disable target opposing creature. Create a fish token. That looks to me like a permanent disable. And there's never anything wrong with permanent disables. You know, people have been having fun with Sigarda's Imprisonment recently. Spell Queller is a pretty nifty card, to be perfectly honest. I've been playing a bit with Spell Queller in this weekend in the Kamagawa run, in fact. Disabling is better. Permanent disable is better than, oh, excuse me, sorry, hiccups, than Sigarda's Imprisonment. Just giving something can't attack and can't block, of course, means it sits in play and gets to use its abilities. Disabling the creature means it stays in play, taking up a creature slot. Of course, Greg's stupid, so he does things like reinforcing disabled creatures. Yeah, it's a tad on the expensive side, you know. But I'm sure there's a place for a card like that. It's not bad. Yeah, tad on the expensive side. But don't argue with permanent disabling. Slip out the back. Target creature gets +1/+1, then disable that creature until end of turn. Waste of space. Sneak attack! Now, sneak attack is a very, very powerful one. There are legacy decks that revolve around sneak attack. Well, back when I was playing Legacy, as I say, 5 to 10 years ago, there were legacy decks that revolved around sneak attack. I don't know if there still are. Legacy does tend to change, weirdly enough. For an Eternal format, it's changed a lot, you know, in the 15 years before I started playing it, to 5 years ago when I basically stopped. So this is a good card in paper, is what I'm trying to get across. Let's see what it does here. When you match 3 or more red gems, move the last creature card from your hand to play under your control. It gains haste and imminent death. When a creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, draw a card. So you have to match 3 or more red gems, and then you get a free swing with a creature. If it happened to do reinforcing things, so it's not like the stack, it's not like you can put, you know, a tainted adversary in, is it? And well, no, you absolutely can put a tainted adversary in. But then you don't need to put a tainted adversary in, do you? Because you don't care about the tainted adversary itself. You know, you may as well just pay the 6 mana and cast the damn thing, to be perfectly honest. I'm just thinking, what creature would I want to have in my hand? I have to actually have it in my hand, and I'm going to lose it, and getting a single swing with it for cheap, admittedly, if I have the sneak attack in play. See, I just don't think it's somebody might find a use for it. I'm just not seeing the right level of power myself, looking at it now. You know, drawing a card at the end of when it dies, meh. Yeah, I'm not but I mean, you know, as I say, you know, sneak attack in paper is a little like that anyway. You know, you think to yourself, why do I just want to get one swing when I can, you know, just cast down the creature and get a. There's a cost differential. You know, in paper it costs, sneak attack costs 4 mana, and you're putting things into play that cost 7 mana, and that's a huge difference. Whereas in this game, this costs 12 mana. You're going to be putting things into play that cost about 20 mana. Proportionally speaking, I know that 4 to 7 is about the same ratio as 12 to 20, but there's a big difference between 4 and 7 mana because you're waiting for those lands to turn up in Paper Magic, and then before that you can't even begin to start casting things. I'm unimpressed, but it, you know, maybe it'll surprise me. Who knows? Snooping Newsy. Snooping Newsy. It's okay. I don't mind. There's a card in one of the old Ravnica sets called Drooling Grudian. Oh, I just love to say Drooling Grudian. Snooping Newsy is okay, but there's just something very satisfying about saying Drooling Grudian. Try it out loud now, you all people listening. Shmar, are you still there? Try saying Drooling Grudian to yourself out loud. It's just very, very satisfying. Apropos of nothing. When this creature enters the battlefield, destroy the top 2 cards of your library. Right. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if there are 5 or more different cards in your graveyard, creature gets +1/+1 and gains lifelink. Obviously, they're giving lifelink to a blue creature. They have to give everything to blue. Blue is the best colour, and all other colours suck. You know. Just go and find a lifelink creature. There may not be other blue lifelink creatures. It's a lifelink creature. It's not a particularly powerful one. Social Climber. Alliance gain 2 life. Rubbish. I kind of like the artwork. They're kind of leaning into the whole Art Deco thing there, aren't they? You know, in the art style. Magic very much likes in these days to make artwork entirely kind of realistic and representational. You very rarely see artwork that looks like artwork, so I like to see it. Back in the old days, you used to get loads. Oh, hello, somebody's knocking on my window. I better just let them know what's going on.
What time are you coming
Hello.
out, Steve?
Well, I'm just on the internet at the moment. I'll probably be another hour or so.
Right.
But I will pop round later if that's all right, yeah? All right, see ya. Yeah, that's my neighbour Joy. So I want to come round and be social. That's here is a Soul of Emancipation, which is a 17 mana 5/7 with reach. Like everything, too small. Hasn't been a single creature in this set, has there, where I've gone, ooh, that's good. 12 mana 8/8. That's a good start. I don't think there's been a single one of those in this set. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may destroy target opposing creature. If you do, create an angel token under your opponent's control. Right, well, that's pretty solid. I would have got much more exciting there if you got the angel token, obviously. I mean, yes, a 5/7 reach kill creature will kill a... You've been saying Drooling Grudian to yourself, Shmar. Yeah, thanks. Excellent. A 5/7 creature with reach will kill a 4/4 angel, but you're left thinking to yourself, well, I've hardly got anything left of my 5/7 reach creature. Why didn't I just play with a cheap removal spell? Let's carry on reading things. You may destroy an opposing Vanguard support at random. Oh, hello, is it going to do a whole list of things when it comes into play? It's giving your opponent more and more angels depending on what it's doing. This is intriguing. There's some intriguing design going on here. Destroy target opposing creature, create an angel. Destroy an opposing Vanguard, create an angel. Destroy, may destroy. Now when it says may destroy, I can only assume it means that it will destroy. Do you know what I mean? I highly doubt it's going to give you the option. It might give you the option, but who knows? Let's assume for the moment, for the sake of this review, that it doesn't give you the option. Destroy Vanguard, a non-land, non-Vanguard support, create an angel. See, we've got, at the moment, we've got Invoke Despair, which I do think is too expensive. Yeah? And Invoke Despair, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it blow up a creature and a vanguard and a support? I think it might just be an enchantment support, or it might just be... Should I actually have a look? I'm actually going to bring up Invoke Despair on my other phone while I am talking. Oh, I thought I was going to. I'll bring it up on the Discord on my computer. But basically Invoke Despair... Invoke Despair has the same kind of level as power when it comes to blowing things up as this card does. But what Invoke Despair doesn't do is give your opponent a much bigger creature than you get. Yeah? I don't really like the idea of giving my opponent a 12/12 and giving me a 5/7 reach. Because after my 5/7 reach has chump blocked it, he's still basically got a 12/12 angel in play. He has a 12 quick bit of math 7 angel in play, and that's a significant threat. You know? Yes, so Invoke Despair kills a creature and an enchantment and a vanguard. And it's mono black, well, you know, and this is white, blue, green. But yeah, I really feel like this gives away too much power. I like the design. 3 angels is too much. Do like the design though. Shmara's Adjudicators. Oh, this is going to be another one of those converters, isn't it? 16 mana, 4/4. When this creature enters the battlefield, target opposing creature gains can't attack and can't block until the beginning of your next turn. Do you know what? I might have even thought about this card. If it just gave it can't attack and can't block. I might have even thought about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It still probably would have been bad. It is expensive. It's a removal spell that's too expensive, that does a conversion effect that's too weak. But I would have thought about it. As such, it's not actually any kind of removal spell, so it's rubbish. There's another one of those lands that we don't particularly like. Sticky Fingers. Draw a card. Target creature gains Menace and Enchanted. When this creature deals combat damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. Oh, you have to put it on your own creature, I see. Why do that? Why not just let it... Because it's part of the theme of the spells is Sticky Fingers. You have to hit your opponent because he's stealing gold. Create a gold token. Gold tokens, not good enough. Don't care. Stimulus package. Topical. When this support enters the board, create 2 gold tokens. Don't care. When a treasure card you control is destroyed during your turn, if you create 2 or less non-token creatures, create a Celestia Citizen token. Treasure card you control is destroyed. Yeah, something like this really needs to keep sprogging the gold tokens, doesn't it? It's no real good just having 2 gold tokens appear, you know. But Steve, you could play this with Old Gnawbones. You can play literally anything with Old Gnawbones and it'd be awesome. That's because Old Gnawbones is good. Strangle and opposing. You all thought it. It's not just me. It's not just you all thought it as well. An opposing Vanguard support loses 3 shield. If you can't, deal 3 damage to target opposing creature. Not enough. Yeah, I probably wouldn't even mind if it said an opposing Vanguard support loses 3 shield, otherwise destroy target creature. I probably wouldn't even mind so much, you know. It's still bad, you know, not blowing up Vanguards and just making them lose shields, but kind of don't mind them not losing shield things on Vanguards, you know. I mean, like, what's his name? Garrett Cursed Hunter you know, his first ability, you know, he does a good thing with his first ability and he creates some tokens, but he also makes a Vanguard lose some shields, and it's a thing, making a Vanguard lose shields. It's not a great effect, but it's a thing you can factor into your gameplay. But yeah, pair it up with 3 damage to target opposing creature, and it's shit. Structural Assault. Destroy all artifact cards. Deal X damage to each creature. X is the number of artifact cards in all graveyards. So it doesn't even include your gold tokens. That's a bit rough. Somebody has loved this. Look down there. Look, somebody has loved this card. They are wrong. It is poo. Maybe they just like the artwork. You know, I'm not a big fan of the artwork, but yeah, it's quite colourful. You know, maybe that's what they're talking about. Suspicious bookcase. Okay, I like the theme. I don't like the fact it's a 0/4 defender. Activate 3. You may disable this creature. If you do, your first other creature becomes unblockable. Yeah, that's a terrible way. Firstly, it's a terrible way to make a creature unblockable, and secondly, making a creature unblockable is an unpowerful effect. Is unpowerful a word? It is now. I'm making it a word. So no, it's bad. I mean, I suppose making things unblockable is the kind of thing, the kind of rubbish effect you could put onto a common card if you are Octagon and you determine to make all common cards shit. Okay, put unblockable onto a card, onto a common card, but make it better. Just make it a support that gives all your creatures unblockable all the time. It still does nothing. Make it more reliable. Swooping Protector has got flash for no reason. When this creature enters the battlefield, it gains shield counter 1. Again, why would we care? Why would we care that a 2/1 flyer has a shield counter? Why do we want to keep that creature alive? No reason at all. Syndicate Infiltrator. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have 5 or more different cards in graveyards, creature gets +2/+2 till the beginning of your next turn. Yeah, just make it keep getting bigger all the time. Still, just take off until the beginning of your next turn. Just make it just keep growing and growing and growing. What's wrong with that? Still not a great card. Make it do that. Yeah? Simpler and better and still not too powerful. Look at every card you make, Octagon, and think to yourself, can I make it simpler and better and still not too powerful? And if you can, just do that. Leave some words off it. You're terrible at translating anyway. What the bloody hell does Ajani invigorate leadership mean anyway? Well, that's a verb. How can you have a verb as a title? Who has a verb as a title? You're bad at translating things, so don't put as many words on the cards. All right? Tygam, Sidisi's Hand. Sidisi, I believe, was somebody in... wasn't it one of the dragons in Dragons of Tarkir? Sidisi? I believe this is from the Tarkir sets. What have we got? When we draw a card, pick one of the first 4 cards of your library, destroy the others. So it's doing a surveil then. Okay. Yeah, you're not drawing that card that you pick, but you are smoothing out your draws. When you draw a card, and you're going to do that every single turn, every turn, and in fact a lot more as well. When you draw a card, pick one of this. I hope this card doesn't crap out. It's probably going to say when it reaches level 5, it suddenly becomes shit, doesn't it? Because that's quite a decent ability, you know, that it would appeal to, you know, Timmies and Johnnies alike. I mean, I suppose for actual Johnny combo players, they don't, even though they've got lots of power, they don't really want to keep stopping their combo deck every time they draw a card. You know, they want the whole thing to just combo off by itself, by magic, without having to make loads of decisions. So maybe the Johnnies won't like this, but you know, it's a nice, powerful effect. Let's read the rest of the card and see how Octagon have fucked it up. When you match 3 or more black gems, exile the first X cards of your graveyard. Target creature gets -X/-X. Permanently? Have they done it permanently? Well done, Octagon. Well done. You are learning. It's learning. Exile the first X cards of your graveyard. Target creature gets -X/-X. X equals this card's level. This card's level becomes 1. So you can destroy, you can dump 3 cards a turn into your graveyard with this guy. You probably want to, because as you're destroying those cards, you're improving the quality of your draws. So if you're not actually drawing cards, his level isn't really going up very quickly though, is it? That's the thing. You know, if his level's only going up by 1 a turn, you haven't got a particularly great way of killing your opponent's stuff. Throw in some time reversals and some Days Undoings though, and all of a sudden you're having frequent turns where you're increasing his level by 5 or 6. My biggest concern with this card is that it's too much faff though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's bad enough, right, waiting for, if you cast a Days Undoing and you're playing with Jace 2 and you used his ultimate, it's bad enough waiting for his ultimate to give all of you different creatures +4/+4 every time you draw a card. And you don't even have to choose a thing to do that. Yeah, can you imagine that? You play a Days Undoing with this guy, and every single card having to just click on one of the cards, throw the others in the graveyard, and click on one of the cards. I mean, after a while, you'll just stop caring. You know, you'll just throw 3 cards in your graveyard. You won't put any thought at all, and you'll probably make some bad plays, but you know, who cares? But I don't know. You know, as a card that throws cards into your graveyard, I mean, I think this is probably the card in the set that does it, doesn't it? You know, if you want to just dump a load of cards into your graveyard, this is a very good way of doing it. You know, and it improves the quality of your draws, and it even kills some things here and there. It's a little expensive and a little on the small side, power and toughness. That is an okay card. It's an okay card. Oh, and of course, yeah. Of course, the -X/-X is cumulative. I was forgetting that. Because they almost never do that. So it makes a difference. You know, if you can't kill something this turn, make it smaller and kill it next turn. Or just carry on making it smaller all the time. Yeah, I mean, it seems okay, that card. Seems okay. Will it make the cut in tournament decks? Who knows? There are a lot worse cards than that for filling up your graveyard. That seems kind of interesting, and dare I say it, kind of good. Tainted Indulgence. Draw 2 cards, discard a card. Okay, so now blue is not convinced with having all the lifelink and the mana conversion. Now it's stealing the draw and discard effects that red has. It wants everything. Blue has to have everything. Everything needs to be blue. Draw 2 cards, discard a card, 5 or more cards in your graveyard. The last card in your hand gains 6 mana. I mean, there's just better than this, isn't there, in this very set, admittedly. Yeah. So, Talent of the Telepath basically does this. And I think I'd rather play with that. And now there's a black version of Talent of the Telepath. You know, and this is a blue-black card. So there's a version of Talent of the Telepath for anyone who might want to play these cards. So yeah, I don't know. I'll look at it. I'll throw it in there. I'll probably even play this in an actual deck that I'm actually playing, right? Just while I'm mastering it, just to see if it's any good. And I'll probably decide it isn't as powerful as other cards, and stop playing it. It's not too bad. Probably rather play a talent of the telepath. Take to the streets. Creature you control get +2/+2. Citizen creatures you control get +1/+1. Those creatures gain vigilance. Don't care. Tenacious underdog. This is a 3/2 with blitz, but it is rare. Let's make this a good one then, shall we? Octagon. When this creature enters the battlefield, if it has blitz, you lose 3 life at the beginning of your turn. Right, so if you spend 11 mana to have a single attack with a 3/2, then you get another card and it gets 4 mana into it and you lose 3 life. Do you see how that's really bad? Octagon, do you see how that's really bad? Oh no, this is okay, it's in your graveyard. Right, so I was thinking you'd need this have this in play at the beginning of your turn, but it's in your graveyard at the beginning of your turn. Anyway, so your basic version of the card is definitely really bad. Yeah, just having a 3/2 that swings in once and then dies and then gets you a card and puts barely any mana into it. That's clearly bad. At the beginning of your turn, if this card is in your graveyard, you may drain 9 mana from your hand. If you do, return this card to the battlefield under your control. Then you can't have this card lose blitz. Well, I didn't think you could. I didn't think you could have a card lose blitz unless you cast it, did you? But, you know, what do I know about blitz? Yeah. Who fucking cares about a 3/2, though? Who cares about a 3/2? That's all I've got to say. This has connive. But it's another one of those rubbish connives, isn't it? Look, when it enters the battlefield, it connives. So it gets pumped up from a 15 mana 3/1 to a 15 mana 4/2. That's not very exciting, is it? When another creature you control connives, it gets +1/+1. Just have it connive some more. Yeah, just have this card connive some more. Why aren't there cards that just connive every bloody turn? Yeah? Still not as good as most other cards. When this creature dies, return the last X cards not claimed to lose from your graveyard to your hand. These cards gain X mana. X is this creature's power. Yeah, don't like it. I mean, there's nothing that particularly makes this creature die. You know, I'm not going to be playing this over like a card that just draws, like a Tollivar is a good example, you know, or even Kessig Naturalist, you know, a card that just draws a card into your hand and gives it every mana as mana every turn as it attacks. You know, this is just weak as shit. Is this a bad set? I think this might be a bad set. We got excited earlier on because we saw a couple of good control cards, but all the creatures have just been very weak source, haven't they? Topiary Stomper, nice. Very Edward Scissorhands. 9 mana 4/4 Vigilance. I mean, that's not... That's what you'd expect for a 9 mana 4. A 9 mana 4/4 isn't any good, but, you know, it's better than the 17 mana 4/4s we've been seeing. When this creature enters the battlefield, fetch the first land support from your library, it gains 4 mana. Now we are talking! I like lands a lot. I like them gaining full mana. I like fetching them from my library. I like them getting 4 mana. I am quite happy to have a fairly ropey 4/4 vigilance creature in play so that I can go and fetch a land from my library. I'm not, you know, this is not as good a card as Glasspool Mimic. I get loads of use out of Glasspool Mimic. which is a card that has land forming, you know, so it creates a land and then gives you a creature. And then, of course, you have that option to make it really big sometimes, occasionally, not all the time, occasionally. So this isn't as good as that because, you know, a 4/4 vigilance is always just going to be a 4/4 vigilance. But we like the land. And there's some more. Let's see what the more is. At the beginning of combat on your turn. Oh, dear. Damn, I thought it was going to get better. It's going to get worse, isn't it? Beginning of combat on your turn. If there are 5 or less green gems, this creature gains can't attack until the beginning of your next turn. Then this creature gains can't block until the beginning of your next turn. They really do get paid by the word, don't they? So yeah, so this is a problem, really. You know, I'm excited by fetching lands and putting lands into play, and I get a little bonus body, but it's a pretty irrelevant bonus body that looks like it's not even going to attack or block most of the time. Not that a 4/4 with vigilance is very good at blocking anyway. And I fear that the body might be so irrelevant that there's just no point playing with the card. It's possible that this will be a good card for objectives. You know, I might specifically need to play green creatures that cost 9 mana with 4 power and toughness and fidget. You know what I mean? For some kind of objective, in which case I'll probably be quite happy to throw this in because it's basically a land card. But I think it's far more likely that this just will never see the cut. Yeah, just think about it. Do you want to be playing a deck with 3 different lands in it, or do you want to be playing a deck with 2 different lands and this card in it? And when you put it like that, you want to be playing the 3 different lands, don't you? What a shame. Torch Breath. How dare you? I floss. An opposing Vanguard support loses X shield. See, that's good. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I was saying? I don't mind making Vanguard lose X shield. Making a Vanguard lose 10 shield, you're pretty much killing it, aren't you? You know, that's a decent enough effect, I guess. Then, if the last card in your opponent's graveyard is a blue Vanguard card, gains 6 mana. Well, don't do me any fucking favours. If you can't deal X damage to target opposing creature, X is this card's stored mana. If it's a blue card, gain 6 mana. Now this is one of the better burn spells, isn't it? I mean, it's still not as good. There is a burn spell that I play with semi-regularly. Quite a lot in my alternate account. Not so much with my main account, but occasionally my main account. And it's Shatterskull Passing. You know, I always say, don't I? The wrong amount of damage to deal to any creature is a finite amount of damage. Shatterskull Passing does 20 damage to things. You know, even that might sometimes not be enough. If there's 3 creatures in play and that damage gets spread around, it's not going to kill a GR, you know. But, so this isn't as good as that. Mostly I play the Shatterskull Passing because it's a land, of course. If it didn't give me a land, I wouldn't play it, I expect. So this clearly is nothing like as good as that. It is definitely, certainly as commons go. I mean, this is a very powerful common burn spell, but that is damning with faint praise. Yeah, I can't imagine playing with this because, yes, 10 damage to target opposing creature isn't good enough to make it into tournament play. But, yeah, fine mastery card, you know. Make sure all you've got. Don't give us any more strangles, Octagon. Make this the baseline. Make this the worst burn spell that you ever print. No, they'll never do that. But that's what you should do. Tramway Station is another one of those rubbish lands. Undercover Operative. Reinforce target creature you control, it gains shield counter 1. I mean, that doesn't seem good enough, does it, for 10 mana? I'm sure we have cards around at the moment that double creatures' power, don't we? Yeah, I'm sure. Isn't there a green and blue card that costs around the same that will double something's power? This is not powerful enough to keep the Timmies happy. And if you have a card that all it does is pump creatures up and doesn't keep the Timmies happy, you've kind of wasted your time on a rare as well. Dear me. Oh, compare and contrast this with Quasi-Duplicate, yeah? That was better. Unleash the Inferno. Deals 7 damage to target opposing creature. No, it's bad, isn't it? Finite damage for 12 mana. It's bad. An opposing Vanguard support loses X shield. If it can't, an opposing non-land support loses X shield. X is equal to 7 minus the toughness of the last creature card in your opponent's graveyard. I mean, it's just weak sauce, isn't it? I mean, for God's sake, that might make something lose naught shield. I can't rely on a card that might make something lose naught shield. And 7 damage to target opposing creature is bad. You know, again, you know, it's fine while mastering. But bad. Unlicensed hearse. What is going on in that picture? I can't even tell what's going on in that picture. I'm loath to zoom in case Facebook does that thing and flips out the card gallery. Oh, no, okay, I see. Yes, it's a car and it's driving away into the distance and all this pink stuff is the trail. I see. Crew 2, pilot. Exile the first 2 cards from target player's graveyard. If you don't, creatures with pilot get X plus X. You may exile the first 2 cards from target player's graveyard. If you don't, creature you control with pilot 2 or greater get plus X plus X. X is the number of cards in all exiles. I mean, I exile a lot of cards. I like to play Karn. Karn's versatility is very cheap and exiles 3 cards every time you use it. So I'm very fond of exiling cards. So there's going to be quite a few cards in my exile. So this is, for me, as a Karn player, this is a piece of equipment that is going to pump my creatures up quite a lot. Do I care about a piece of equipment that gives my creatures plus X where X is large? Probably not. Will some people care? Probably, yeah, you know, for 9 mana. It's got all that fucking crew nonsense. Maybe there are some subtleties of the whole crew mechanic that I'm just not taking account of. But I am, for the sake of argument, just going to assume that it's just giving one of my creatures that buff all the time, because that's what I think. So, yes, so probably better than a lot of pieces of equipment. And I probably don't care. Unlucky Witness. When this creature dies or loses a reinforcement, discard the last card without mana from your hand, then draw 2 cards. Clearly crap. I only pause because I know that Opera SM likes things like this, where there's a possibility where you can reduce the cost of a creature down to 0 and put it in some kind of loopy combo deck. So maybe there'll be a place for it, you know? Who knows? But, you know, for the rest of us, clearly crap. Urabrask. Urabrask is one of the Praetors from New Phyrexia. At the beginning of your turn, draw a card. That card gains Outcast. Right, it's going to need some mana now, Octagon. Give us some mana. This card gains Outcast. At the beginning of your opponent's turn... Oh! It's not going to gain any mana. beginning of your opponent's turn, if your opponent has 4 or more cards in their hand, the last card in your opponent's hand gains Outcast. Yeah, seems kind of bad. Okay, so I mean, we're drawing a card every turn, but we have to use that card or else it fucks off, because that's Outcast. You're basically making your opponent discard a card every turn. And that's not nothing. In fact, haven't we had a creature that just... I know we've had creatures in the past that just make your opponent discard a card every turn. Herald of Anguish leaps to mind. I think maybe that did that. Have we had a creature that drew a card every turn and made your opponent discard a card every turn? I mean, I get why it's got Outcast. It's because Outcast is the red mechanic. But, you know, fuck that shit. Swap it over to fucking bar. You can't really make Erebras black, I suppose. Put it on a different bloody card then. Yeah, I'm not really interested. If the card that I draw is going to have Outcast, I'm not really particularly interested. Giving the last card in your opponent's hand Outcast every turn kind of seems like making your opponent discard a card every turn, which is okay. It's not a particularly powerful ability. We've had things all throughout MTGPQ history. We've had things that make your opponent discard a card every turn. They tend to be underwhelming. So I very much doubt that this is any great shakes, this guy. Vampire Scrivener. When you gain life or lose life during your turn, this creature gets +1/+1 permanently. You know, clearly low power, but I like the restraints that they've used in making the +1/+1 permanent. Well done for that. Yeah, clearly low power. You know, who knows? Maybe as a 6-mana 2/2, maybe they would have just thought it was too good. Who knows? Low power. Venom Connoisseur. Oh, nice. Okay. Alliance. This creature gains Death Touch. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you just give a creature Death Touch, that doesn't mean anything unless you also make it engage in combat. So, pointless. Again, they've ported it over from paper and not done the necessary work to convert it to a different game. Those useless fuckers! Voice of the Vermin. Nice. Gains of the player gains shield counter 1. Yeah, it's another thing we don't care about. When this creature attacks, the base power and toughness of target creature you control become 4/4. He really seems like he should create some rats, doesn't he? Doesn't he seem like he should create some rat tokens, and then his ability to turn them into 4/4s would be good? He's called Voice of the Vermin, but he creates no tokens. So he's like a little tiny... oh, now what's that dragon called? Tanazir? Tanazir Quandrix, is that the one? Yeah? And that's like a 7/7 for, you know, for not much more cost. Tanazir is about 17 mana or so. That might just be me pulling numbers out my arse. And it makes all your tokens like 7/7, doesn't it? So, unimpressive Voice of the Vermin. I know it's uncommon, but, you know, who really cares? Void Rend, not Voice Rend. Here we go. Can't have its mana drained or raised. Okay, that's nothing. Destroy an opposing Vanguard support. Oh, hello. Yeah, okay, we're cooking. Oh, look at that. Look at, do you see it yet? I have scanned ahead on this card. Do you see what's exciting me yet? We'll carry on reading. Destroy an opposing Vanguard support. If you can't, destroy target opposing creature. It's not that. That's not it. Destroy target opposing creature. If you can't, destroy an opposing support. Do you see? Do you see what it is? They have not put non-land. Just destroy an opposing support. For some reason, I don't know why they make all of their bloody support removal these days. so specific, you know, and it's always destroying non-lands or sometimes artifacts or enchantments, you know, and generally makes it rubbish and means that you end up playing with Demolish instead, you know. They print so many support removal cards these days that no fucker ever plays with because they're too specific. And now here, Void Rend, destroy an opposing support. Nice. I'm definitely going to play with this. Yeah, you know. The utility's just too good. It's 3 colours for my favourite boy Khan. So it's pumping up his mana bonuses up in 3 colours when he uses first ability. You know, it doesn't do everything. It's destroy target creature, you know. And 9 mana, you know, certainly isn't cheap. You know, it's decently costed at 9 mana. But just the utility on it is nice. Vanguards, target creature. Oh, target opposing creature. Yeah, okay. Again, that does matter these days, unfortunately. Everything fucking affects target opposing creature. Really irritating when you want to kill your own stuff. This is exactly, in fact, the problem that I ran into this weekend. Do you remember I was telling you earlier in the stream? I was telling you that one of my creatures got hit with Sigarda's imprisonment, and I was therefore unable to use my Mask of Gristlebrand equipment. The reason why I couldn't kill my creature is because my deck was just crammed full of effects that didn't destroy my own creatures. I had Depart the Realm that I couldn't use on my own creature. I had Binding of the Old Gods that I couldn't use on my own creature. You know, Nickelbar was playing with Nickelbolus the First. I can't use his first ability on my own creature either. Although, oddly enough, that's not Octagon's fault, I don't think. I don't think they made him up. So, yes, target is a limit. Opposing is a limit. Those are both limits on creatures. But, you know, still does target creatures. Still does get rid of them. Still does get rid of supports. It works on lands. I can't stress how important it is to get rid of your opponent's lands. An opponent with a lot of lands in play is a dangerous opponent. This is a fine card. I will be chasing it. Definitely. This and the other sticking things on top of the library control card. Do you remember the blue, white, green one? I will be chasing these 2 rares actively. They are good. Waterfront District is another one of those rubbish lands. Whack! Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. If that creature is white, gain 6 mana. Yeah, whatever. Do you see? Yeah? Do you see anything there, Octagon? See anything? See how you've wasted your time making that whack card? Do you see that? Yeah? No. No point trying to tell them. They never learn. Widespread Thieving has got Hideaway. When you cast a multicoloured card, gain a gold token. It doesn't even have to be decency to be multicoloured itself. Then if you create 5 or more gold tokens, you may destroy 5 of those tokens. I'm assuming you get the mana for destroying 5 of those tokens. Move the first card with Hidden from your exile to hand against 4 mana. Is this maybe this is one of the better Hideaway cards? I still don't particularly like it. There are multicolored. I feel like I could probably, as a result of this set, I could probably happily make a deck that I really like in Karn that contains all multicolored control cards and all multicolored threats. I don't know, maybe I couldn't. You know, I still am, even though I've got Void Rend, I'm still going to want to play with Demolish in my deck. It's just too cheap not to. It causes those lovely cascades as well. You know, I'm still probably going to want to play with the Great Aurora. I'm still probably going to want to play with a lot of single colour cards. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cram my deck full of multicolour cards, actually. But even if I did, I still think I wouldn't play with this thing. I think I'm just going to play with some good lands and play my cards that way. Wing Shield Agent. This creature gains a shield counter. Yeah. When this creature attacks, target other creature you control gains flying. Who cares? Who really cares? Wiretapping. Oh, more Hideaway. When you draw your first card each turn. Okay, this is quite an easy way. It's a very, very easy way to get Hideaway. Of course it is. It's the blue one. Yeah. All the other Hideaway cards have to be crap. The blue one has to be the most powerful because it's blue. When you draw your first card each turn, draw a card. Oh, wow. I hadn't even taken that in. I'd scanned ahead to the bit that says if you've got 5 cards in your hand. But this is doing a whole Alhammarit's Archive effect. This is actually doubling the number of cards you've got in your hand. Now, that in and of itself isn't good enough. You know, paying 12 mana for a card that draws 2 cards instead of 1 in your turn. That is definitely not good enough. I mean, I've already got Curse of Surveillance at the moment. That costs 3 mana. And that draws me an extra card every turn. But when you throw in on top of that, the first card with Hidden, from your exile to your hand, it gains full mana, I think we might be talking about something. Let me just run over to my PC and check what happens with Hideaway, because I think you get to select which card you hide away. With Hideaway, don't you? I think you fetch one of each card. Let's have a look. When this card enters play, pick one of the first 4 cards from your library, exile that card, then that card gains Hidden. Yeah, so you're picking one of the cards from your library, and then almost immediately you get to play it for free. Is that worth 12 mana? I mean, I think this is unquestionably the best Hideaway card, and yet I still feel like maybe that effect isn't worth 12 mana. I don't know. It's a debate worth having, though. It's worth, like I say, you know, drawing 2 cards a turn, you know, even after you've had the Hideaway effect, is not nothing. And you get to pick a card and you get to pay for all of it. It still seems a little low power to me, but it's worth considering. Might be okay. Might be okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not good enough for Legacy, is it? Definitely not good enough for Legacy. So, yeah, might be okay. Witness Protection. Nice art, again. Target creature's base power and toughness becomes 1/1. That creature loses all its basic evergreen abilities and gains the Citizen subtype. I mean, I kind of don't see the point. We've got Turn to Frog. Yeah. And isn't that just better? Yeah, Turn to Frog gets rid of all the reinforcements. This thing is, you know, it's still giving you 1/1 for each of your reinforcements, you know? Whereas Turn to Frog turns something into a 1/1. A single 1/1, wiping its reinforcements. You know, this removes basic evergreen abilities. Turn to Frog removes all abilities on the card because it turns it into an entirely different creature with no abilities. All the card text is just gone. I kind of don't see the point of this card at all. I feel like nobody will ever play it. Still, thank God you put all that time and effort into designing it, eh, Octagon? Well done. Go team. Oh, 0-1. Make it a 0-1. How about that? That would have been something, wouldn't it? You were so close. Still would have been pretty bad. But, you know. As it is, there's just better around. Again, I suppose, yeah, bad removal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. 10 unmastered cards, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I won't mind mastering it so much. Witty Roast Master. He definitely seems to be roasting somebody, yep. In a very witty way, I have to say. Alliance deal 2 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. Waste of time. Workshop War Chief, I'm sorry. 14 mana, 5/3. Blitz 10. When enters the battlefield, gains 6 life. When it dies, create a Rhino token. That feels like it's not enough, doesn't it? You're gonna pay 14 mana. You're going to get a swing with this guy. This strikes me as the kind of card that exists in paper that's really good value, yeah? I'm interested to know what the paper version is like, actually, because it's probably the type of card. There was some kind of Rhino in paper a little while back, and it cost like 4 mana, and it was a 4/4, and then you gained 4 life or something. Just did all kinds of good value effects that mattered in the game of paper Magic. And I feel like all of the effects here, you know, getting a single swing with a 5/3 and gaining 6 life, you know, and then putting what's presumably a 4/4 token into play. They really needed to scale up all these things to the game of Magic Puzzle Quest, and they didn't. And so you've got a really underwhelming package for a card that was probably quite a nice little collection of effects in paper. Xander's Lounge is another one of those quite bad lands. Zayatora, oh, it seems like we've nearly got to the end then. Zayatora, the Incinerator. Demon Dragon. I mean, I like that. That's good, isn't it? Demon Dragon's good. I mean, I don't like 6/6, 18 mana, but I like Demon Dragon. That's the bit of the card that I like so far. At the end of your turn, you may destroy the last other creature you control. If you do, an opposing Vanguard loses X shield. If you can't deal X damage to any opposing target, X is the base power of the destroyed creature, then destroy 3 gold tokens. Yeah, don't think I care, to be perfectly honest. I don't really want to be having I've already spent 18 mana on a 6/6. I don't want to be having to put good creatures out with high base powers. They're generally expensive creatures with base powers in order to not really be able to kill my opponent's creatures particularly well. No, do not like. Zayatora's Envoy, Steve, not Envy. It's another one of those rubbish bloody blitz cards. Maybe this one will be good, who knows. When this creature deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker, draw a card. That card gains X mana. X is the combat damage dealt to your opponent's planeswalker by this creature during this combat times 3. What am I not reading right here? I think that all still works even if it hasn't got blitz, doesn't it? When this creature deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker, draw a card. X is the combat damage dealt to your opponent's planeswalker by this creature during this combat. Combat damage dealt to your opponent's planeswalker by this creature during this combat times 3. I mean, it's a funny way of wording. I think what it means is, let's ignore the blitz thing because the blitz thing is pretty shit, you know. But we'll come back to the blitz thing in a bit. I think what it means is when you play it, it hits your opponent. When it attacks and hits your opponent, it draws a card and gives it 15 mana. I mean, wow, right? You know, Jesse and Thief draws a card, gives it no mana. You know, Tovolar draws a card, gives it half its mana. This thing's putting 15 mana into it. I think what then happens, because it says damage dealt to your opponent's planeswalker by this creature during this combat, I think what that means is that, like, the next time it attacks, it draws a card and puts 30 mana into it. Isn't that what it says? That looks like what it says. I mean, this is an absolute beast, this creature. An absolute beast. I will be playing this in the rare node of, well, at least I think I'll be playing this in the rare node of the Kamagawa run. I do kind of like the way I'm playing, as I say, I'm currently playing Tovolar in the rare node of the Kamagawa run, and I like the way he draws a card and gives it mana, but I do also like the way he suddenly becomes really enormous and does an alpha strike, you know? But he does not give the card that he draws as much mana as this bad boy does. Look at that. And you can, that's all without the blitz, yeah? Now, if you factor in the blitz, you get one swing with it, and that gives you a card with 9 mana in it from the blitz, and a card with 15 mana in it from his ability, which is, you know, all right. I can't think why you'd do that. I'm almost never going to, I feel like I'm almost never going to do that when I can just, you know, wait a turn and have a card every single turn that's basically full of mana. What am I missing about this card? Because that just seems incredible. Absolutely nutsy. When this creature does combat turns to our plans, I'm just reading it again because I really think, surely I've misunderstood. It's so much better than anything else we've ever had draw a card and give mana to in the past. That card gains X is the combat damage dealt to your opponent's planeswalker by this creature during this combat ×3. Yeah, I mean, this looks like the chase card of the set. This looks like an extremely dangerous card. I'll tell you, do you know what? It just occurred to me that I think the reason why Blitz is going to be important is because Greg's going to kill his own creatures with it. Yeah? So this is going to make this, I think Blitz will probably make this card more threatening to you. Yeah? If you or I play this card, we are going to almost certainly keep it in play and just keep getting cards and keep getting mana off them. Yeah? But you'll probably find that Greg, every so often, is going to blitz it, and that means that this doesn't stay in play, and that's going to be good for you. You do not want this guy hitting you in the face every turn and getting a new spell and paying for it completely every single turn. I can't get over how amazing this guy is. A lot of good rares in this set. Three good rares in this set. Is that a lot? Not really. No. That's the card, I think. I like that card. Wow, wowee. And here we and I think we're probably going to finish. Oh, we haven't quite finished. Right. There was me thinking we were going to finish. We were going to see this amazing card and then finish on this just unimpressive, boring piece of shit land. Good Lord, though. You know? Good Lord. I don't even think I'm wrong about this one like I was with Time Reversal. Don't get me wrong, Time Reversal is still a good card. I gushed a little too much about Time Reversal. It's still fucking great. Don't rule out Time Reversal, people. Still a great card. Wow. Moving on. All-Seeing Arbiter. When this creature enters the battlefield or attacks, discard a card, draw 2 cards. When you discard a card, target opposing creature gets -X/-0 X is the number of cards in your graveyard. Now this is very similar to that shteev card we looked at, isn't it? You know, only it's putting less cards into the graveyard, and while it's reducing power, it's not reducing toughness. And as such, I mean, it's got to be worse than that, hasn't it? You know, why play this when you can play that? It's throwing a lot less cards into your graveyard. This is only throwing 1 card into your graveyard every turn, and that's throwing 3 in, plus maybe some more if you draw some extra cards. And we all like drawing cards, surely. Drawing cards is the purpose of being alive, as Patrick Chapin used to say. So yeah, this seems like a lot like another card in the same set that's better. I mean, that card is a masterpiece. They are a bit harder to get hold of, but you know, this is why we store up all our jewels, you know, so we can go after those masterpieces that we like. So yeah, I mean, this is not a terrible card, you know. I was talking about this card with Matt in shout out to Matt, hello, in the Discord earlier today, and it did occur to me at the time that this is never going to kill the tokens produced by a tainted adversary before they come in and smack you in the face, and as such it's never going to be a tier 1 card, but it's okay. It's an okay card, don't mind it. Body Launderer. Oh, these, maybe because we've got to Z and everything was in alphabetical order, maybe now we've got here, maybe that means that these are the exclusives. It's a possibility, who knows. Body Launderer. This has got Death Touch, probably for no reason, and it's got Connive. When a non-token creature you control dies, this creature connives. Yeah, so not very often then. When this creature dies, return the first creature with base power X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with its reinforced. I've had a bit of a problem with this with its reinforcements thing. What did I have that wasn't working? What's it called? Circle of Teleportation. Okay, I was playing with Circle of Teleportation in Colours of Magic. And it's supposed to pull out creatures from your exile and all of its reinforcements. And it definitely wasn't. I spoke to people, well, I spoke to one other person, and they said, yeah, mine does. Mine pulls out its reinforcements, but I wasn't getting the reinforcements. Huh. Apropos of nothing. Yeah. The thing is, it's probably going to be a 3-3, isn't it? It seems hard to pump this up. You're never going to get a free Gaia's Revenge popping out of your graveyard because this guy died. And again, there's nothing that really makes it die. You know, it's got be interesting, wouldn't it? Well, this would be an interesting card to give Death Touch and Defender, or Death Touch and Berserker to. It'd be an interesting card to give that to. You know, because you know, even though we don't like removal spells that make you jump through those hoops, it would have that extra little kicker on the end that it would grab a creature from your graveyard and put it into play. Return the first creature with base power X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with its reinforcements. Seems like it includes itself, doesn't it? Seems like when a Body Launderer die, all of your other Body Launderers are going to pop out of the graveyard into play. I mean, who knows? The way they've coded it, you might even find that the one that's just died also pops out of the graveyard into play. Seems unlikely, but you never know. I probably don't care. I probably don't really care about having 3/3 Death Touch creatures. And like, you know, yeah, you know, you can get good creatures like Startled Awake, but it's much better ways of getting Startled Awakes into play, like, you know, fetching them and casting them, than waiting for this creature to die. So I do not think it is particularly good. Who knows, maybe there'll be ways of doing things with stacks of them coming in and out of play. you know. Maybe it's an unkillable creature. Maybe once you've got one in play and one in the graveyard, they just keep swapping over all the time, and it's a completely unkillable creature. Still a rather unremarkable unkillable creature, but you know, you never know. I like unkillable creatures. I like creatures that do that. But even then, it's not really unkillable, is it? Because it can get exiled. Plenty of things can do that at the moment. It can get bounced. Plenty of things that can do that at the moment. Yeah, I'm trying to talk myself into this being something of note, and it's not really. It's not really very good at all. Halo Fountain. At the beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to white. Okay, that's not enough, but it's a good first sentence on a card, I suppose. When you perform a white match, oh good, I'm glad they've decided to completely change their the way that they talk about these. Well, who knows? No, they've always used swaps in the past, haven't they? We've been talking about swaps in the past, but now we've decided to introduce the term perform, apparently. When you perform a white match 3, if you control 2 or less non-token creatures, create a Celestia Citizen token. Okay. Otherwise, reinforce your first creature with Alliance. When you perform a white match 4, draw a card, it gains 9 mana. When you perform a white match 5, it gains 9 loyalty. I'm sorry, 10 loyalty. I kind of think I like this. I mean, I like lands. This is a bit of a weak land. Yeah? It's also a token generator. You know, seems like it's a bit of a weak token generator because it creates one of those Celestia Citizen tokens. And as we know, that is a 1/1 stroke 3/3 with or without Alliance, or maybe something else, who knows. It's also a bit of a token generator. It's also drawing you some cards, and it's also gaining you some loyalty. Now, do not forget, you can combine this with other white mana generators, and that's going to be really going to make this thing sing. You know, converting 2 gems to white is okay. I mean, you could say, if you have to do the swap yourself, you could say, well, you don't really want it to, you know, convoke loads of gems and do the match itself. You want it to just put a few gems around the board and then allow you to do the matches yourself. But no, you do want it to make its own mana as well. You want to do that too. You just want to make as many bloody white gems as possible. Oh my God, you can put this in fucking Pajami, can't you? He's into white mana conversion. For some reason, they've given him awesome white mana conversion with his first ability, second ability. Yeah, combine this thing with white mana conversion, and it's probably pretty good, yeah? You have to actually do the white match 5, so maybe it's not going to give you the 10 loyalty that often. Maybe it's not even going to draw a card and give you 9 mana that often, but it's definitely worth playing with to see if it's going to be good, because it seems like when you combine this with other white mana conversion that this is going to be pretty good. I like it. I want to have a go with it. It might turn out to not be spectacular, but there's a lot of nice words on that card, and I'm interested to see how it turns out. Luxior, Giada's Gift, is a 3 mana equipment. 3 mana's good. 2 shields is not good. At the beginning of your turn, you may disable your Vanguard support with the greatest shield until end of turn. Your first creature gets +X/+X. X is the greatest shield among Vanguard supports you control. No, I don't think this is worth a whole card, is it? I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm playing with a Vanguard, it's probably a really fucking good one. Why do I want to disable my Teferi for a whole turn just to pump up one of my creatures when I can get another card and put 10 mana into it and exile one of my opponent's supports? You know, why am I going to disable my Tameo when I can get it closer to having its ultimate go off and filling my entire handful of mana every turn? I just think that, sure, if I've got a rubbish Vanguard in play, but why am I going to play with a Vanguard? If I've got a good Vanguard, I'm going to want to use the Vanguard. Do not like. Titan of Industry. Oh, I like it. Titan of Industry. I get it. That's good. This is 20 mana. It's expensive for a 7 mana. For a 7/7 reach. When this creature enters the battlefield, you get 2 random effects. Oh dear, this doesn't sound good. Destroy an opposing artifact or enchantment at random. Gain 10 life. Create a Rhino token. Target creature you control gains shield counter 1. I can almost guarantee that you will never be satisfied with what comes out of this creature. Do you know what I mean? You gain 10 life and have a 4/4 token. Who cares? Putting a shield token on this, I mean, who even cares about putting a shield token on there? You know, a really big creature will probably still be alive after you've hit it with this 7/7. It's too expensive for not enough. And hello, the painter. It's 9 mana. When you cast a spell card, you may destroy target creature you control with power 2 or greater. Okay, so not this guy, although potentially maybe this guy. If you do, create a copy of that card in your hand. It gains full mana. Full mana, always good. We like full mana. Destroying a target creature you control with power 2 or greater. It's not white, is it? Pajami players can't just cheap this guy into play and use blow up their tokens. Poor old Pajami players. You just have to use all of the other broken cards you've got to play with. Yeah, I don't think this is going to make the cut into anything. I don't think so. I don't know. I feel like it's not, you know. I feel we can really have the conversation with this card about whether it's worth playing with this card and Thought to Spy Network or just playing with Thought to Spy Network. I think it is actually, for a change, worth having the conversation, because blowing up 1 turn's worth of Thopters to completely fill up a spell card in your hand is pretty bloody good trade, you know. So it seems okay. Seems like you're going to have to really build around it though, you know. I don't know. You see, it's more back end is the thing. Yeah, I mean, Top to Spy Network isn't a very fast card in itself anyway. You know, you've got to play that the 13 for the Top to Spy Network. You've got to play a support. You know, it takes a turn for the Thopters to actually come into play. You know, so that attack until the turn after that, and then if they get destroyed, then you've got, you know, it waits another turn waiting for them to stop having summoning sickness. So it's already quite slow. So you add this in again, you're talking much later in the late game. I feel if nothing's gone wrong to allow you to combine this with your Thought to Spy Network, then I hate to say it, you probably won that game anyway, you know. If nothing's gone wrong, all the way up to the point where you're, where you're sprogging tokens regularly, and you've got this guy into play, and he doesn't get shot, feels like you're really ahead in that game. How is this guy without Thought to Spy Network? Well, he seems a bit crap, doesn't he? I mean, I suppose Body Launderer is a creature with power 2 or greater, isn't it? So you could sack the Body Launderer, and it's possible the Body Launderer fetches another Body Launderer. We don't know. It's also possible that the Body Launderer could fetch, say, and hello the Painter. If one of those was in your graveyard and you'd put one out and it had been shot. Who knows? I can't call it bad. The Timmies and Johnnies might be excited by. I suppose it's not particularly a Johnny. Getting a single card full of mana isn't particularly a Johnny card. They're not happy with getting a single card full of mana. They want to play 50 cards full of mana in their turn. The Timmies will probably like this card. I don't know. It's not a bad card. I feel like I'm not going to end up playing with it. And why does it have Death Touch? For no reason at all. Henzi Toolbox Torre. When a creature you control with Blitz dies or loses a reinforcement, cards with Blitz in your hand gain 5 mana. I mean, I don't really care. The only card with Blitz we've seen that's amazing is the amazing any excuse to go back and look at the Viashino, you know, is this thing. And I'm not sure we care about playing this rubbish 3-power creature in order to put 5 mana into him. I think we probably just want to play that amazing Viashino and just have that, you know. Yeah, not sure there's any place for this in a deck. It kind of assumes that Blitz is a thing, and Blitz is not a thing. Commits Obscura Oculus. What's that he's got in his magic portal hole? Is that a bunny rabbit or a cat? I can't tell. It might even be a fox. Who knows? At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains unblockable. Okay, basically nothing. Discard a card, then draw a card. Okay, not much. Then your first creature without unblockable gains double strike. Okay. I'm assuming you can choose not to give a creature unblockable. Even though it says target creature you control gains unblockable, you can always say not now, can't you? And I'm assuming that if you do that, that will mean you end up giving a creature double strike. So if this is your only creature, you can make it double strike. Is a 13 mana 2/4 with double strike worth paying for? I mean, not really, but again, not terrible. Double strike is a thing. In the same way that Blitz is not a thing, double strike is a thing. Your first creature without a blockable gains double strike. If the last card in your graveyard is not a support card, your first creature with unblockable gets +1/+1. Yeah, it's kind of a slow way of pumping up your double striking creature, isn't it? It all feels like too slow a package to me. It all feels like a slightly too expensive double striking creature. Not that we have a lot of double striking creature. I'm always apt to compare double striking creatures to the old Fencer, what's his name, who cost 6 mana and was a 2/2 with double strike. You know, clearly with 13 mana for a 2/4 double strike, not as good as that. But I guess we don't really have a lot of creatures with double strike. But it feels like that this guy is like going, well, he can be a 2/4 double strike, or you can not double strike with him, and you can make him a bit more powerful, and next turn have a 3/5 double strike. Is it worth waiting for? Not really worth waiting for. That small level of pump is not really worth waiting for. And then it's got that absurd extra little thing where if the last card in your graveyard is a support card, and I really think that means the first card that goes into your graveyard, yeah? Yeah, the first creature in your graveyard is the one at the top, is the one that's been most recently discarded. I think the last card in your graveyard always means the first card that ever hits your graveyard. You've got very little control over that. If that's a support, If you get hit by an infinite obliteration and a support goes into your graveyard, tough shit, mate. You're never getting any pump out of this card. So I think as a package, if what you're saying this thing does is it slowly pumps something up and then gives it double strike so that it can alpha strike, I mean, you compare that to Tovolar, who just drains all the mana in your hand and goes kapow in your opponent's face, you know, or Minsk, who drains all the power and mana in your hand, or any number of the cards, all those adversaries that just drain all the mana in your hand and go kapow into your opponent's face. You compare him to those, and he's poo, isn't he? Yeah, not good. Kit Kanto, Mayhem Diva, nice. When this creature enters the battlefield, create a Celestia citizen token. I mean, it's one of those of indeterminate size. It's a catbird druid. I think there was a cartoon called Catbird Druid, wasn't there? At the beginning of each combat, you may have target creature you control gain, can't attack and can't block. If you do, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Ah, right, okay. I mean, yeah, it's hard to tell from how they've worded that whether the creature gets +2/+2 and trample until end of turn, or whether it gets +2/+2 permanently and gains trample until end of turn. So it kind of feels a bit similar to this thing, doesn't it? You know, is you're foregoing the big damage bonus in the future, you know, to pump the creature up. Let's assume that's how this works, because if it's only going to get +2 until end of turn, it's absolute pants. But it's still pretty bad anyway. We don't care. We don't really care. Just put a good creature down. You know, why have this? Why have you built a deck with this thing in it? If what you want to do is hit your opponent in the face really hard, why have you put this thing in a deck and another creature that you feel the need to pump up by +2/+2 every turn, right? And as you're pumping it, it can't attack. If what you want to do is hit your opponent hard, why are you playing those cards? If you don't want to hit your opponent card, you aren't going to be playing this card anyway. Just go and get any one of the adversaries, yeah? Dump a load of mana into it, smack your opponent in the face 2 or 3 times and he's dead. Bad card. Perry the Pulverizer. 10 mana 3/3. When this creature enters the battlefield, its shield counter 1. When this creature attacks, target creature you control gets +X/+X and trample. X is the number of buffed creatures plus the number of creatures with shield counter plus the number of creatures with a gained basic evergreen. There it is, that fucking gained basic evergreen mechanic again. So this is basically a 10 mana 3/3 that's almost certainly going to become a 10 mana 4/4. Fuck absolutely off. Oh, is that it? Oh dear. Well, I mean, he's just up here. We may as well put him on the screen. This is what this whole set's been about for me, this one card. When you put it in these terms, I mean, it kind of seems pretty bad, doesn't it? 2 very good control cards. You know, 1 chase card, which for some reason is rare. In fact, they've all been rare, haven't they, the 3 cards that I'm after. I feel like that makes it a bad set, only having 3 cards in it. There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of mythics and masterpieces that are not worth spending 400 jewels on, you know? I really think that if you've got a pile of jewels, just sit on it. Just sit on your pile of jewels until standard rotate. I mean, we've all been doing it, haven't we, for Neo already. Kamagawa Neon Dynasty. We've all been sitting on our jewels. There's that Silent Blade only guy. Yeah, Silent Blade guy who like discards the first card your opponent has, and then you get to put it into play. There was that one mythic, I think it was a masterpiece maybe in Neo, that was okay, but it certainly wasn't worth buying the whole elite booster full of shit cards for that one card. And even that card's not great. I haven't got haste. You know, you might just spend 19 mana on a 5/5 creature that gets shot before it does anything. So yeah. Neon Dynasty was not worth spending any jewels on. Streets of New Capenna, I'm going to go out on a limb. I mean, I might have forgotten something, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's not worth spending any of your jewels on this set either. I think just save them up, because Standard is going to be rotating, I believe, with the next set. The next set that comes in, I think, is Dominaria United. I think it's going to be quite a while before it comes out, because I think it is in paper. I think. I should check these things, shouldn't I? Oh, Steve, what we really like, we like tuning in to your long rambling streams, Steve, to just hear a bunch of stuff you've made up off the top of your head with no basis in reality. We love that, Steve. That is why we are here. And we're going to take that and we're going to accept it as God's gospel truth as well. Well, thank you very much for saying that, my devoted audience. I love each and every one. That's what people say in the world of streaming, don't they? They say, I love you. At the end of every YouTube video, I love you. At the end of every podcast, they say, I love you. I love you. And then they complain about bloody parasocial relationships. Well, stop saying I love you then. I hate every one of you out there in my audience. There you go. That's how to put an end to parasocial relationships. Yes, you, whoever you are sitting there listening to this stream, I hate you and everything you stand for. Yeah? There you go. Try pretending that we have a parasocial relationship now. Not so easy, is it? See? Easily done. Yeah, Standard is rotating. And this is the last set before Standard is rotating, and you know, a good proportion of events are Standard only, so save your jewels until then. Should be able to stock up about 4,000 probably by that time, I expect. And that's it. Yeah, as I say, I think it's a bad set. I think despite the few cards are definitely absolutely playable that we've come across, I think it's generally a bad set. Oh dear. Mind you, I always say this about everything, don't I? And maybe we'll look back at this as the third golden age. I don't even know when the other two golden ages were. We'll look back at this as the third golden age of Magic Puzzle Quest. Remember when Streets of New Capenna will come out, we'd say there weren't so many bugs in the game back then. Because I mean, that's a fairly safe bet. If you're looking forward to the future, I think it's a fairly safe bet to say the game will just become buggier and slower with each passing month. I don't feel like any kind of Nostradamus making that kind of prediction. Anyway, clearly, I'm just loving the sound of my own voice now, and that is the end of the stream. So thanks for joining in. I will see you all, who I hate, yeah? I will see you all whenever the next set comes out, which will be quite a while. And let's hope we can have a few less Kamagawas and a few more Innistrads, yeah? With their better cards. All right, you all take care now. Bye-bye.